All right, let's get into it. Today, we are going on a kind of visual safari deep into the microscopic world of flowering plants. We're going to peel back the layers, go past the bark and the leaves to really see the hidden architecture that makes these things so incredibly successful.
I mean, you look at a plant, you see a leaf, a stem, a flower, right? But underneath that surface, there's a whole microscopic city of specialized cells and tissues all working together perfectly. And if you really want to understand how a plant works, you've got to explore its internal anatomy.
And that's where anatomy comes in. Now, this isn't just about memorizing a bunch of parts. It's about understanding how a plant's internal design, its actual blueprint, shapes its entire strategy for survival.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by peeling back the layers to get a grip on the 3 basic tissue systems that every plant is built from. Then we're going to see how those systems are arranged differently in the roots, stems, and leaves of the 2 big groups of flowering plants: dicots, think daisies and oak trees, and monocots, like your grasses and corn.
You know, every complex structure, whether it's a skyscraper or a living thing, starts with a simple blueprint. And for plants, that blueprint is all based on 3 fundamental tissue systems.
Yep, that's it. Just 3. Everything in a plant, from the teeniest, tiniest root hair all the way up to the tallest stem, is built from just these 3 types of tissue systems, all arranged based on their structure and where they are in the plant. Okay, so what are they? Well, you've got the epidermal, the ground, and the vascular systems. A really simple way to think about them is as the plant's skin, its main body or filler tissue, and its internal plumbing. Let's take a look at each one, starting from the outside in. So first up is the epidermal system. This is the outermost layer, usually just a single cell thick, and it forms a protective skin over the entire plant. On the stems and leaves, it's almost always covered by this waxy layer called a cuticle, which is super important for preventing water loss. But here's the cool part. This skin isn't solid. It's covered in these tiny adjustable pores called stomata, and these are absolutely crucial. They're like microscopic mouths that let the plant breathe, taking in the carbon dioxide it needs and releasing oxygen. And this whole control system is called the stomatal apparatus. You've got the pore itself, 2 specialized guard cells that actually open and close it, and then the cells surrounding them. It's this beautiful, precise little machine for managing gas exchange. Now, sandwiched between that outer skin and the inner plumbing is our second system, the ground tissue. This is kind of the filler material that makes up the bulk of the plant. It's where a lot of the heavy lifting happens, like photosynthesis and storing food. And that brings us to system number 3, the vascular tissue, the plant's internal plumbing. This amazing network of tubes, made of xylem and phloem, is the transport system that moves water up from the roots and sugars down from the leaves, making sure every single cell gets what it needs. Okay, so those are our 3 basic building blocks. Now for the really interesting part, let's see how they're arranged differently. And we'll start underground with the roots of dicots and monocots.
Just look at these cross sections. You can see a difference right away, smack in the middle in what's called the vascular cylinder. On the left, in the dicot root, you see the xylem forms this really distinct X or star shape. But look to the right, at the monocot root, its vascular tissues are arranged in a ring.
Let's break that down a bit. The dicot's X-shaped plumbing is really compact. The monocot root, on the other hand, has way more vascular bundles. We call that a polyarch arrangement. But the most critical difference, the real game changer, is secondary growth. Dicot roots can actually grow thicker year after year, which is what anchors huge trees. Monocot roots can't do that. And that, right there, is why you will never, ever see a tree-sized blade of grass. All right, let's move up from the roots. We're going to find these same kinds of architectural differences in the stem, and they are just as important for how the plant builds itself and stands up to the world. And wow, is the difference obvious here. The dicot stem on the left has its vascular bundles, its plumbing, arranged in this neat, organized ring. Now compare that to the monocot stem. Its bundles are scattered all over the place, kind of like reinforcing bars mixed into concrete. So this table really gets to the heart of it. That ring structure in dicot stems contains a really special layer called cambium. You can think of cambium as the engine of secondary growth. It's what creates tree rings and lets a stem get wider and stronger every single year. Monocots? They don't have cambium, which explains why their stems, like a cornstalk, never get woody. So if you're going to remember one thing about dicot stems, it is this: that tidy, organized ring of vascular bundles. This structure is the secret that allows woody trees to grow so massive.
And for monocot stems, like what you'd see in corn or bamboo, the key feature is this scattered arrangement. It provides a totally different kind of structural support, much more flexible, like that reinforced concrete we mentioned.
All right, final stop on our tour. Let's head to the plant's solar panels, its food factories, the leaves. And, you guessed it, here too, the internal anatomy is perfectly tuned to its job, with some really key differences between dicots and monocots. Take a look inside. The dicot leaf on the left has these really distinct layers. See that top layer? It's made of these tightly packed column-like cells. Now compare that to the monocot leaf on the right. It looks much more uniform all the way through, doesn't it?
Let's dig into this. That internal tissue, the mesophyll, is highly specialized in a dicot leaf. It has a palisade layer on top, packed tight to act like a dense solar panel, and then a spongy layer below with tons of airspace for gas to move around. Monocot leaves, again, are more uniform. And check out the stomata. On a flat dicot leaf, they're mostly on the cooler underside to stop water from evaporating. But on a vertical monocot leaf like grass, they're on both sides to grab as much CO2 as possible. Some grasses even have these special bulliform cells that work like hinges, curling the leaf up when it's dry to save water. So clever.
You know, when you put this all together, this quote really hits the nail on the head. None of these features are random. The ringed bundles, the scattered bundles, the layered leaves, every single detail is part of a coherent strategy for how that specific plant lives, grows, and competes in its environment.
From a single microscopic pore all the way to the architecture of an entire tree, a plant's internal anatomy is just a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How has this silent internal toolkit allowed plants to thrive and conquer just about every single habitat on Earth?